the biggest things we've seen is we get more storms, and we're also getting more intense storms. So if we look at this graphic over here, this is showing us storms between 75, oh, let me change this. This is too high. Between the blue one is 1975 to 89, and then the red one is 90 to 04. So we can see in the Indian Ocean, we've had 6 more. So that's 6 times more Category 4 and 5 hurricanes. If we go to the South Pacific, they've had twice as many. North Atlantic, not as many. So this is actually the United States. So when we're talking about an increase in storms and the intensity of the storms, we do feel it here in the United States, but not like a lot of the other parts of the planet. I mean, look at this poor West Pacific here. It seems like every Christmas, every December, they have a Category 4 and 5 hurricanes happening now. So these guys have been the most impacted. It also doesn't help that this is also island nations. So most of them are very low sea level, so then they can easily be flooded. The Indian Ocean has had more. The East Pacific, it has had more, but we just, doesn't really hit the United States. It hits more of the southern hemisphere and the Central America. But we're seeing more storms, we're seeing more intense storms, and this is probably because of our feedback loops. Because what happens when the earth warms? So when the temperatures go up, we get more, you have an increase in water vapor. What happens when you get too much water vapor in the atmosphere? You get precipitation. And if it's being blown across the oceans, because there's lots of wind in the oceans, because we've seen that the oceans have the highest winds. And where's the majority of the water evaporating from? The oceans. So we have ocean evaporation. So then we have a lot of water being blown across our large bodies of water to the coastlines. So then it leads to more storms, more intense storms. So we actually get a lot of flooding. This here in the bottom left is actually Hurricane Harvey in 2017. You can see what the interstates into Houston look like, probably, hopefully, before and after the hurricane came through. So a lot of Houston was actually flooded during Hurricane Harvey. In developed nations, this causes, I'm going to say it causes problems. But in undeveloped nations, like in the South Pacific, it's actually devastating. Because oftentimes entire cities are just wiped off, or towns are wiped off the face of the earth, because they don't have these big tall buildings made of concrete. They have huts made of plant material, so it really can't hold on to their integrity when there's a Category 4 or Category 5 hurricane coming down on them. So this is really affecting humans, these Category 4 and 5 hurricanes. Another thing that's really affecting humans is rising sea levels. So we're actually seeing rising sea levels. And this is because with our higher temperatures, because of our more greenhouse gases, we get more melting of the glaciers. And so this means we're adding more water to our oceans. But hot water, it actually takes up more space. So warm water actually expands and takes more space. So what we're seeing for these island nations, especially in the Pacific, they're actually going underwater. They have predicted that before this century is over, their nations will be underwater. So they're actually trying to find places for the entire country to migrate to so that they don't end up underwater. And then the coastline, especially Florida, poor Florida. I know Miami is always upgrading its flood prevention system, its storm surge prevention system, but they actually can't keep up with the changes that are happening. Not only do the more intense storms go over their protection systems, but higher sea levels actually overwhelm their current protection system. So if we look at this image down here, this is if all the ice melted. So if all the ice up at the North Pole melted and all the ice in Antarctica melted, this is what the United States would look like. So you can see poor Florida is gone. In fact, the entire East Coast of the United States is gone. So our head of government is gone. Our head of finance is gone. And then this is our megalopolis. This is where a good majority of the people in the United States live. And now they're homeless. Well, they all live down here too. And now they're all homeless. So we have to figure out what to do with those people. Houston, this is where all of our oil is refined. So now we have no access to gasoline. So that's a bit of a problem. There's lots of problems coming in with our global warming and the water vapor issues that we're seeing. A lot of this problem is actually due to what we have reactive systems. So what that means is we actually fix today's problem. And we actually don't think about tomorrow's problem. Well, we do think about tomorrow's problem. It's just tomorrow's problem isn't 100% guaranteed. And because it's not 100% guaranteed, the big price tag that will be on it is sort of cost prohibitive. So when I talked about switching from fossil fuel electricity to natural renewable electricity, you can't just turn it off and switch over. It costs billions of dollars to build a power plant. And who's going to pay for those billions of dollars for a brand new power plant so we no longer have to use coal? People don't want to pay for it. So the cheaper fix-it-now system is what works and is affordable, acceptably affordable to people rather than the future expensive version. So a lot of this is because human culture is more reactive than it is proactive. And so we're seeing these problems persist in human cultures.